Tonight, as the new coronavirus spreads overseas, authorities here are on high alert.
As long as we keep an eye on it, I think we should be well prepared.
With several flights heading to China for the Lunar New Year, we'll look at what passengers are doing to protect themselves from the virus. Plus,
I don't see it being cleared. We're gonna wait until it melts.
some residents say the city isn't doing enough to clear the snow off roads and sidewalks as another messy mix of weather heads our way. And patients in hallways, conference rooms, wherever there's space. A CBC investigation reveals overcrowding in our hospitals has become a constant crisis. Good evening, I'm Mike Wise. Many health officials are on high alert tonight as the new coronavirus outbreak continues to spread in China. 17 people there have now died from the virus, with the country reporting 570 confirmed cases. It's prompting concern here about how to contain the spread of the virus, given the amount of people coming to and from China every day. Ontario's health minister saying today, we are prepared.
We have specific measures that will be in place, as I indicated before, to both detect and contain this virus. So anyone who is being tested in the future will be placed in isolation, and that staff will be given the necessary protective equipment to protect both themselves as well as to prevent transmission of the virus.
Now, we should make it clear there are no confirmed cases of the new coronavirus in Canada, but health officials here have to prepare for that possibility. Ali Chiasson has more on that and the precautions travelers are taking to protect themselves.
Oh, that's my girl, Robbie.
Nancy Lee is flying to Guangzhou tonight to visit family.
So you'll be hanging out with your grandmother at home, so you don't really have to worry about that, but it's the airport, right?
Yeah. That's the thing. That's actually the only thing I worried about. It's the airport.
Guangzhou is a travel hub with air and train connections to Wuhan, the epicenter of the coronavirus.
So your husband is picking up masks.
Yeah.
You asked him to get like 50 or so.
Yes. So I'm going to be, every day I go out, I will have a mask.
Does it feel different when you have to wear a mask and you have to put gloves on?
Yes, because I wasn't there during the SARS, right? So that's actually my first time I'm wearing mask back in China, yeah. All that to protect myself and also to protect so I don't bring this back to my family and to Toronto.
Wearing mask, I think overall it's just people need to be aware and then protect ourselves.
Lots of people on China-bound flights have been doing just that.
We need to wash our hands. We need to wear the masks, and just be aware of the virus.
We already booked the ticket a long time ago, all planned. So it's a little bit annoying, but there's no other choice.
This family trusts that the Chinese government is doing its part to contain it, even though the number of cases in the country, as of today, has climbed to over 500 and more than a dozen deaths. With the first North American patient confirmed in the United States, nurses and doctors here are getting ready.
Triage is the most important part, right? Because we need to get those patients isolated right away. And so it is a vigilant screening at triage around the travel history and the symptoms and get them in the right room with the right precautions. I was here for SARS in 2003 and it was quite different then. And with SARS, we really didn't know what we were dealing with. We were trying to understand what kind of virus it was and what we should do to protect our staff. This is different, and I think people have to appreciate that it's not the same as SARS, it's not presenting the same, the numbers aren't the same, the death rate, the mortality rate's not the same. So as long as we keep an eye on it, I think we should be well prepared.
The numbers up to this point depict the Wuhan coronavirus as a less lethal cousin of SARS. But everyone, from travelers to hospital staff, have to do their part to keep it that way.
So Canada's major international airports, including Pearson here, have begun screening travelers coming from China. So when they arrive, they'll head to an immigration kiosk where they'll be asked questions about where they traveled and how they are feeling. Any traveler who had visited Wuhan, which is the city that's the epicenter of the coronavirus, they may be subject to more screening.
Oh, that was our Ali Chasson reporting. To some other news concerning your health now. A CBC exclusive reveals some officials are raising the alarm over what they say is a constant state of crisis when it comes to overcrowding in Ontario's hospitals. Well, now Brampton has declared a healthcare emergency over the problem after City Council was petitioned by local doctors.
Our hospital consistently is well beyond 100% capacity. For a hospital to operate at a decent level, that number should be consistently less than 85%.
The group Concerned Ontario Doctors was at Brampton City Hall today requesting the emergency declaration. They say patient needs at Brampton's William Osler Hospital often exceed resources and that elective surgeries are being cancelled because there's nowhere to put patients after the procedures. Brampton's Mayor Patrick Brown says the city's healthcare system is in dire need of funding from the provincial government. Our Mike Crawley will take a look at how the rest of the province is faring coming up in a few minutes. Well, the TTC is apologizing for some commuter chaos this morning after Line 2 was shut down for hours due to a subway car derailment. Tens of thousands of riders were affected by the shutdown between Ossington and Jane.
This is the second time this week that it's shut down, so I don't know. It's frustrating because TTC keeps putting up their prices, but the service isn't improving.
My boss told me that I have to be there in 5 minutes or I'm fired, so I called him and I said, I quit, because there's no way I'm going to make it there in 5 minutes.
The TTC says as many as 50,000 subway riders were forced to take shuttle buses, leading to giant lineups as people tried to board them. Police even shut down a section of Bloor Street to give more room for buses and crowds. It took about 4.5 hours to get the train back on the track and service up and running again. As for the derailment, the train was empty, so no one was hurt. Now, what caused it is under investigation. And those weren't the only problems TTC riders faced this morning. If you were on the 510 Spadina streetcar, you may have noticed it didn't finish its route. That's because a driver got stuck in the Queens Quay tunnel. Now, this happened just after 2 a.m. A driver stayed right behind the streetcar on the tracks as it headed into the tunnel on Queens Quay. It made it past the automatic gates that normally block the tunnel, making it all the way down to almost Union Station before getting stuck. It had to be lifted up and carried out with heavy equipment this morning. There are no reports of injuries, although the SUV suffered some dents and a broken window. Since 2014, this has happened about 24 times, but this is the first time since the city installed gates there in 2018. Well, it's been 4 days now since Toronto got that dump of snow over the weekend. While city crews continue to clean it all up, we're hearing tonight from residents saying it's not happening quick enough and they're having trouble getting around. Angelina King has more.
From sidewalks in Kensington and residential streets in East York to crosswalks on Lakeshore and bike lanes downtown, there's frustration with the city's response to snow removal.
They usually just focus on the roads, and you have to drive on the road really when it's snowing because the bike lanes aren't clear at all.
According to Environment Canada, 17.2 centimeters of snow fell in Toronto on Saturday, a new daily record for January 18. Some crosswalks are still almost completely covered by snow. In this instance, some pedestrians had to carve out their own little path, but imagine if you were using a stroller or in a wheelchair, and residents here say that it actually used to be a lot worse.
It was a block of snow, like walls fully blocked.
Hajar Enamiri uses this crosswalk to take her child to daycare. She says she can't get her stroller across and last time had to wait for someone to help lift it.
It was dangerous for the baby. One of us could have slipped, which is very dangerous, and it really made my day more challenging. I was scared.
In a statement, the city says crews have been working hard on its cleanup plan and is encouraging those with concerns to call 311. Enamiri contacted 311 twice, including by tweeting these photos of another woman lifting her stroller, but the crosswalk still isn't cleared.
I saw a person with a wheelchair. It was very sad and dangerous.
So we got a bunch of emails from folks in the Parkview Hills area.
Councillor Brad Bradford says he received numerous complaints about streets in East York not being plowed.
We do have a $90 million annual expenditure on snow removal in the City of Toronto, 1,500 contracted staff who are on call 24/7. Work is underway, but we all need to be patient.
especially with several more weeks of winter to go. Angelina King, CBC News, Toronto.
Colette Kennedy's here with her first look at the forecast. I'm okay with these temperatures. If we're going to have January in Toronto, I'm okay with these temperatures.
I am too, but it's just hard to remember sometimes when we have temperatures like this that it is January. We're getting towards the end of January too. Hey, wasn't it beautiful today, at least to start things off with all the sunshine? And then where did it go? Yeah, as those clouds were really kind of building in. And we're going to see more of a cloudy trend over the next few days. And then this active system coming in as we get towards Friday night into Saturday. And in terms of the mild temperatures, not just the daytime highs being above seasonal, but I'm talking about the overnight lows too. It looks like this trend is going to go on for a few weeks, like into the beginning of February. Maybe not always feeling so mild when the wind blows and gets stronger, but still temperatures are certainly going to be on the mild side. This system doesn't look like much when we stay focused in on Ontario, and then we expand and you can see just how expansive it is, picking up moisture from the Gulf. Then as we come back in and we take you towards Friday, it looks like into the afternoon hours beginning to push in as rain into southwestern Ontario. And then overnight Friday, it will be coming in and we may see a mix into the GTA. But I'm going to get into that a little more detail coming up. Overnight tonight, -4. Not that bad. 2 degrees tomorrow afternoon, Mike.
I will take it. Thanks, Colette.
You're welcome.
As we mentioned earlier in our newscast, we have a CBC News exclusive tonight about the state of hospitals in this province. Our investigation revealing that Ontario's hallway healthcare problem is now routine, finding that hospitals are now filled beyond their capacity, not just in flu season, but nearly every day. CBC's Queen's Park reporter Mike Crawley has more.
This used to be an exercise gym. Now it's a makeshift hospital ward with no bathroom and beds separated by portable screens.
I'm just going to check your oxygen and everything, okay, while I'm here.
Southlake Regional Health Centre is a 500-bed hospital in Newmarket. Its overcrowding problems affect patients from the moment they arrive in the ER.
Stayed in emergency for probably almost 2 days, I guess, until they finally got me what you see here, these lovely accommodations.
New data obtained by CBC News show the hallway medicine problem is not just confined to hospitals like Southlake in the Toronto area, but has spread around the province. From January to June last year, all these hospitals were filled beyond capacity nearly every single day.
This was a pantry. It used to have a fridge and an ice maker and a microwave. This is not the optimal place to be providing care.
The alternative is leaving patients stuck in the ER.
When emergency gets backed up, they start to get worried that they can't assess people quickly enough to make sure that they can stay safe.
The emergency room at Richmond Hill Hospital. It's early afternoon on a weekday, one of the quietest periods for the ER. Yet there are patients in the hall and alongside the nursing station desk.
For our staff who work in this environment, they would describe it as constantly working under crisis.
To try to ease the overcrowding, the hospital turned this meeting room over to beds. 10 patients here share one washroom with no shower. Richmond Hill was filled beyond its capacity for all but 2 days in the first half of last year, more than any other hospital in Ontario.
All across the province, you have hospitals at extremely high levels of occupancy. And what we're seeing is that it's no longer just during the flu season, but it's all year round.
Anthony Dale recalls his visit to a Northern Ontario hospital in August, usually the least overcrowded month.
In this hospital, it looked like a war zone. There were patients up and down the hallway.
Premier Doug Ford has promised to end hallway health care. His health minister admits it will take years.
It's like taking an ocean liner and turning it around. It doesn't happen on a dime.
The latest provincial figures show the use of unconventional hospital spaces has dropped about 6% over the past year. But this still means hallways, lunchrooms, and auditoriums house nearly 1,000 Ontario patients every day. Mike Crawley, CBC News, Newmarket.
A social media post by the city's fire chief is attracting a lot of attention today.
In a few minutes, I'm about to walk up DuPont Street and go for my, what I try very hard to be my quarterly check-in with my psychologist.
I'm Lorenda Redekop. I spoke with the chief about the impact he hopes he'll have. That story coming up.
We have an update to a story we brought you Monday about a brazen weekend robbery at a kids' food bank in Windsor. Well, after word got out about the food and power tools that were stolen, workers say there has been an outpouring of community support.
It was, a couple times I might have even come to tears yesterday with how generous people have been and how much concern they have felt for us.
The food bank has even assigned one volunteer just to deal with the donations of food and money coming in from local businesses and organizations. It even had replacement tools donated. Those will be used to help repair public housing units. The food bank also plans to install a new security system in the near future. Well, first responders experience intense situations all the time, dealing with death and trauma almost daily. Toronto's fire chief wants people to know they can talk about what they're going through. And today, he went very public about his own mental health check-ins. Lorenda Redekop has more.
I want you to know that I feel no shame or stigma or embarrassment and certainly no sense of weakness in telling you that I have a psychologist that plays.
It's just a quick video on social media, recorded just before Fire Chief Matthew Pegg headed in for what he calls his checkup from the neck up, and it's taken off.
It's drawn a bit of excitement and a little bit of attention, and I think that's fantastic.
He wants to normalize taking care of one's mental health in a profession that traditionally hasn't talked about this, despite dealing with trauma all the time.
When I started, those are not conversations we ever had. I never would have said, you know, that really bothers me. It would have been in the back of people's heads, you know, you're probably not cut out for this kid.
But he says there's still a long way to go. He only thought about getting help a few years ago.
Some of the people that are closest to me here started to call it out for me. And I started to express repeatedly, I'm really tired. I'm tired. I'm tired.
Now he tries to go for a check-in 4 times a year.
I don't think it's any different than when I go to my doctor and they draw blood. I need the professionals in the lab to tell me what my cholesterol count is and my sugar count is. I can't see that or feel it. And you know, for me this morning, when I sat with my doctor, I need his professional expertise.
Now he talks about it during every graduation for new firefighters.
And it is okay not to be okay.
This is something that is long overdue and something that he should be commended for. It's incredibly courageous.
Dilnaz Garda hopes this will help many first responders. Her brother was a Toronto police officer. He died by suicide in 2016. He'd previously been involved in a shooting.
During the funeral, when the other officers came to pay respects, they paid their respects, but they also told me that they were in their own dark place.
Now she tries to make sure officers have more supports. The chief doesn't want to make this about himself, but if he can help others, he'll keep talking. Lorenda Redekop, CBC News, Toronto.
Here's a live shot of the city skyline tonight. We got some warmer temperatures on the way, but some messy weather could be moving in. Just in time for the weekend, of course. Colette will have your extended forecast coming up.
The weather update is brought to you by Train, the most reliable heating and cooling brand. It's hard to stop a train.
The Raptors hosting the 76ers tonight. It was a sluggish start to the game. Philly was leading by 14 in the first quarter, but Toronto chips away in the second. Norman Powell here, grabbing the board, going coast to coast, throwing it down. Let's skip to the fourth now. Serge Ibaka, hot off the bench. He gets a steal. Hollis Jefferson gets it back to him, and then Ibaka finishes. Ben Simmons would answer this, though, ripping right through the Raptors. He misses a slam, but watch the ball. Gets the bounce. Fred VanVleet would close the game from long range. Back-to-back three-pointers. Watch this one. He was 6 for 7 from beyond the arc. Raptors win 107-95. Carla Kennedy's back with her extended forecast. Another mild day tomorrow, but you're keeping an eye on this weekend.
I sure am, Mike. We do have another system coming in for the weekend. This has been the trend the last several weekends. We get wet weather as we go into Saturday. This one looking more like it's going to be a rain event, but there'll likely be a mix and some slushy conditions, and especially up into cottage country, a little different there. So I'm going to walk you through how it looks at this point. Our daytime highs today, they're running 2 to 3 degrees above seasonal. You can see some of the colder air actually was back towards London and Windsor, and we're going to see it getting slightly milder as we go into Thursday. Now, in terms of what's going on, yeah, we had sun earlier and then the clouds kind of building in. We'll see a lot of these clouds for the next couple of days before that system actually arrives. And then into the day Friday, it starts working its way through Windsor towards London, pushing towards the GTA. And by overnight Friday, we'll likely see it come in again as maybe a bit of wet snow at first, but mostly turning over to some rain or some mixing in between. That's how it looks at this point with the tracking. And this is very important. If this tracks just a little bit further south and pulls in a little more colder air, then we're talking about accumulations, and we could be up in the 10s to 15 centimeters. So for now, mostly a rain event and just making it not very pleasant for travel, frankly, on Saturday. Getting into more of those slushy conditions up into cottage country where we could see some accumulations there. The winds have been quite strong through the afternoon and evening hours, but we're going to be seeing those backing off for us as we head into tomorrow morning. So winds not so much a factor. Enough, though, in the overnight that they do give us a wind chill. So it is -8 for southwestern Ontario, and the temperatures will read -4. They'll read 2 and 3 degrees, though, tomorrow afternoon, and maybe some sunny breaks, so some peaks at the sun we'll be seeing for Thursday. Overnight in the GTA, it's -4 everywhere except St. Catharines, -3 there, and that wind chill -8. So tomorrow morning, still a little bit cool. Be nice if you can get some sunny breaks, but a look at the temperature range, all of them above seasonal. And looking ahead, all of these temperatures, daytime highs and overnight lows. In fact, the overnight lows are even more above seasonal than the daytime highs. They're running somewhere in that 7 to 10 degrees milder than normal. But there it is, Friday into Saturday, some messy stuff and some flurries behind that system into Sunday.
Okay, thanks a lot, Colette.
You're welcome.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy. Now go away.
He was 1/6 of Monty Python. Today, the comedy world is mourning the loss of Terry Jones. We'll look back on his life after the break. One of the comic masterminds behind Monty Python's Flying Circus has died. Actor, writer, director Terry Jones was 77.
Now you listen here. He's not the Messiah. He's a very naughty boy.
Now, Jones starred in and directed Monty Python's Life of Brian and The Meaning of Life. He was a founding member of the Python troupe, and he featured prominently on the hit Monty Python TV show in the 1970s. Jones was also a respected historian, poet, and children's author. The Welsh actor and comic was diagnosed with a rare form of dementia in 2015. He passed away Saturday night. Well, that's our newscast for tonight. Tomorrow on Q, from small-town Alberta to the stage of the Grand Ole Opry, Canadian country music star Brett Kissel has traveled pretty far in his career. Now his latest album is taking him to the top of the charts. He's going to stop by the Q studio for a stripped-down performance. You can listen to that tomorrow at 10 a.m. on CBC Radio 1. I'll see you back here tomorrow night at 11.